billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Inna atayna kal kautsar fasalli li rabbika wanhar inna shaniyaka huwal abtar. First of all, I would like to request each and every participant to introduce themselves. Maybe we should start from Afzal Khan.
My name is Mohammad Afzal Khan. I am Deputy Director, Punjab Archaeology. Now working in Lahore Fort.
Mahmood Hassan from Federal Department of Archaeology and Museum.
Good morning. I am Jihad Harun from Jordan, working with the American School of Oriental Research in Jordan with the project called SHIP as a CHRP.
Good morning. I am Engineer Asma Shahdo. I'm working at the Department of Antiquities as the Director of Engineering and Conservation Library.
Good morning, I'm Kai Waize. I've been working for UNESCO as a consultant, mainly on management of World Heritage for the past 50 years.
I'm Sana Sakeng. I'm presenting Professor Kavita Hedewandi here, and we are from an organization, History, Art and Architecture of Pakistan, that's HARP. And we've been involved in carrying out various projects with UNESCO and World Heritage Center.
I'm Jawad Aziz, National Officer of Culture.
Kamil Khan Mumtaz, Architect in Private Practice in Lahore.
I am from Bangladesh. My name is Chandrasekhar Shah. I am chair in Bangladesh National Trust Council. We are working with the project World Heritage Site in Pahalpur with the UNESCO. We are just responsible for that.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Junyan from the World Heritage Center at UNESCO.
Good morning and Assalamu alaikum. Vibeke Jensen, I'm UNESCO representative to Pakistan.
Good morning. My name is Manzoor Ahmad Kanasru. I am the Director General Archaeology and Antiquities Government of Sindh. Today's host.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Kazi Ayaz Mahesa. I'm working as a Community Coordinator for UNESCO in Sindh.
I am Zafar Buredi from Government of Balochistan, working as Secretary Culture, Archaeology and Tourism.
Salman Beg is my name. I work with the Art and Cultural Service Pakistan.
I am Samad. I am Director of Archaeology and Museums for Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province.
Chief Executive Religious Foundation of Pakistan.
Good morning. I am Nasr Al-Rawahid from Oman. I am working in the Ministry of Municipality and Water Resources, managing one of the World Heritage Sites in Oman.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. I'm Umaid Al-Nobali, working for Oman National Commission for UNESCO.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sial Ashlagay. I'm Iranian, and I work as a coordinator for a master's degree in cultural heritage management in Italy.
Naeem Safi, I'm the Director of the Peshawar World City Corporation.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Qasim Ali Qasim, former Director Archaeology and Museums, and now I am consultant in the Archaeology Department, Government of Sindh.
Assalamualaikum. Muhammad Tanveer, archaeological engineer working with Directorate General Antiquities and Archaeology.
Thank you, every participant, for introducing. Now I would like to invite Ms. Vibeke, Director and Company Representative of Islamabad, for her opening remarks. Dr. Vibeke.
Well, thank you very much, Kasi Sahib, and respected Secretary of Culture, Tourism and Antiquities. Very warm welcome to you, and thank you so much for coming, despite all the traffic problems in Karachi. Also, thank you to Mr. Canastro, DG Archaeology and Antiquities, who were just sitting here. Distinguished experts on culture and cultural heritage from Pakistan and from abroad. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, very good morning and assalamu alaikum. I am indeed very pleased to be here today to welcome you all to this one-day meeting on involving communities in World Heritage conservation and I would say cultural heritage conservation at large. I'm so grateful for all of you to have made the effort to come here and of course particularly those of you coming from far. Through today's discussions, we hope to contribute some ideas to answering the following questions. How can we involve communities in the protection of World Heritage sites? And what good practices can we adopt to further our efforts towards heritage conservation? As a group of people, experts that have a vested interest in protecting cultural heritage, particularly with the wide range of experts presenting the case studies today, I hope that we can come up with some solid and viable future recommendations for our work and for your work in your respective countries, and that we can really learn from one another. Without doubt, our heritage sites are threatened by various factors, be it natural decay during the passage of time or the omnipresent danger of climate change, encroachment and vandalism. However, it is our understanding that heritage management does not exist in an isolated void. It has a very strong people-centered component. So it follows that the local community is an inextricable part of the cultural heritage and vice versa. A nation's cultural heritage has the potential to play an active role in communities and provide significant benefits to the people. And this is also reflected in our World Heritage Convention that was adopted back in 1972, was it, Junhee? Yeah. We were just talking, Junhee and I, in the car about what a wonderful document it is. Though it's been created more than 50 years ago, there's still so many. It's still such a, in a way, a modern document with so many messages and recommendations and the whole framework, which is so relevant to what we are dealing with today. So it is indeed a very forward-looking document and convention. It is by involving the community that its role is redefined to become instigators of change, and that empowers them to act as stakeholders in conservation, rather than just passive bystanders. And in the interest of social cohesion and harmony, our monuments can act as a common symbol under which various subcultures can converge in a unified manner, bridging socio-economic activities. In order to not only involve the community, but to do so in the most inclusive manner possible, our approach must be to ensure the dignity of the people, address cultural diversity, eliminate gender disparities, and bridge socioeconomic inequalities. And it is only by addressing these factors in their entirety that it may become possible for us to make some headway towards the goals of creating peaceful societies and to reduce inequalities, as it's all spelled out in the Sustainable Development Goals, the 2030 Global Agenda for Development. While the labor-intensive building crafts that are essential to conserving heritage sites, such as Makli, that some of us will go and visit tomorrow, are endangered today, by fostering an appreciation for the history of these crafts, it is possible to highlight these skills as an intrinsic part of the nation's cultural identity. And therefore, with the potential for craft revival as an integral part of restoration and preservation, the socio-economic empowerment of communities can be furthered through livelihood means and thus become a very powerful tool for poverty alleviation. By nurturing an appreciation for World Heritage sites through community mobilization, and I would say also education, and promoting the honing of skills that are dying out, it is possible to protect our tangible and intangible cultural heritage from further deterioration. You all have very good examples of that from your respective countries and provinces, and we really look forward to have a very in-depth but also open discussion today about what works and maybe also some of the challenges and what are some of the pitfalls and some of the things we should avoid in that regard. I want to sincerely again thank you for all being here, but also give a special thanks to Yasmin Lari, the CEO of Heritage Foundation, with whom we have been working very, very closely for many, many years, but in particular over the last 2 years or so on the project involving community mobilization in tile conservation and production in the Makli Heritage Site. And again, we'll have an opportunity to see what the Heritage Foundation has been doing tomorrow. I also want to thank my colleague Junhee Han from the World Heritage Center, who has been the brain behind all of this, so to speak. She is the one who has been very instrumental in conceiving this project, which is, by the way, not only taking place in Pakistan, but also, I think, in Bangladesh, is it? We hope that, again, the findings from these relatively small but important projects will really be able to inform the way forward on involving communities in heritage conservation, and really give us some good pointers to how to improve on things and do things better in the future, and more of them. So with these words, I wish us all a productive day and very useful discussions. And please feel free to, to put your views on the table. We are here in a small group of experts, and we really want to benefit as much as possible from your insights and your expertise and experience. Thank you. Shukriya.
Now, I would like to request Mr. Manzoor Ahmed Tanaso, Director General of Antiquities and Archaeology, Government of Sindh, for his opening remarks.
Please, let me say a few words. Just welcome you. Worthy Ms. Jensen and honorable guests, I really warmly welcome you here in this morning, and I'm really very much pleased to see the galaxy of the scholars who have come here from different countries of the world. And the topic selected, the topic of the workshop, is really interesting. It's only yesterday I saw one person talking to Minister Culture and Antiquities in very aggressive mood. Yesterday I saw someone talking to Minister in very aggressive mood, someone from Dadu district. And Minister was a little bit defensive. The person was aggressive and saying that you people are not taking care of our heritage. In my village, these tombs are there, and you are not coming forward to take this. This showed the interest. This really made me happy that people are taking interest in their heritage. And the topic is also related with the participation of the communities. This will really increase, and the emotions attached to their heritage is really valuable. And we need to exploit that, and we need to bring them in our fold, that we should work with them together. And again, I'm thankful to you that all of you are here, and I'm hopeful that something very, very beneficial will come out of this workshop.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Yeah, that's a very good example.
Thank you, Secretary Sir. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, good morning. I, on behalf of Culture, Tourism and Antiquities Department, Government of Sindh, warmly welcome to all the participants to the very important workshop. Special thanks to the experts from the region who have traveled long distance to Karachi, and also to Ms. Wabik Jensen, Director UNESCO Islamabad, and Ms. Joni Han from the World Heritage Center for their excellent support for this workshop. We deeply appreciate UNESCO's efforts on involving the local communities for the protection and preservation of the Magli site. It is indeed a unique intervention, and we have witnessed that through the trainings of the local communities, the dying art of the village tiles is being revived. We at the Directorate of Archaeology, Culture and Tourism Department, Government of Sindh, are highly interested and looking forward to carry on this component of involving the local communities for the inclusive and sustainable conservation of the World Heritage Site of Magli. Thank you once again, all ladies and gentlemen. Over to Jonia.
Thank you.
As some of you know very well, our workshops, can I go to, yes, it's fine, let's stop there. Our workshop, World Heritage and Sustainable Development, the role of local communities is placed under two important institutional initiatives. The first is the Global Strategy of the World Heritage Convention 2012 and 22, which aims to link the conservation and sustainable management of World Heritage properties to local communities. And the second is the policy document for the integration of a sustainable development perspectives into the processes of the World Heritage Convention, which is adopted by the 20th General Assembly of the World Heritage Convention in 2015. As you know, the next PowerPoint, please. Can I use this one? How? I move? Oh, yes, perfect. Thank you. As you know, the World Heritage Convention is the first international treaty. No, it goes, yes, which combined the protection of cultural and natural heritage under a single legal instrument. And since then, it's considerably enlarged our horizon on the understanding on cultural heritage. Hence, since then, it's officially acknowledged the cultural landscape, cultural roots, as well as intangible value as form of our cultural heritage, among others. On the other hand, it continued pioneering some of the thinking which have become the core concepts of the World Heritage Convention, and our subject community is one of these. A major shift in the World Heritage concept and approaches occurred during the 1990s by realizing the importance of role that can be played by local communities in the management of cultural and natural heritage sites as important stakeholders, and this led the World Heritage Committee to add C of communities to the strategic objectives of the World Heritage Convention in 2007. The four strategic objectives of the World Heritage Convention, which was put forward before, was credibility, conservation, communication, and capacity building for World Heritage. Then in 2007, as mentioned, that the World Heritage Committee finally added the C, or the last fifth C, to the strategic objectives. By doing so, the committee highlighted the importance of involving the indigenous people, local communities, and the residents in conservation and management efforts for various heritage sites, including World Heritage. In this regard, it is important to underline that this responded precisely to Article 5 of the World Heritage Convention, by which the state parties are invited to give heritage a role in the life of the community, and makes it clear that the concerns and aspirations of communities must be taken into close consideration in conservation and management efforts. The importance of involving local communities in conservation and management efforts was further highlighted when the 40th anniversary of the convention in 2012 was placed under the overall theme of World Heritage and Sustainable Development, the role of local communities, and celebrated in Tokyo with an international event. At the end of this international event, a defining text was released concerning communities and World Heritage, so-called the Kyoto Vision. The Kyoto Vision reiterates the important role of communities, including local communities and indigenous people, in the implementation of World Heritage Convention, and emphasizes that it is only through the strengthened relationship between people and heritage, based on our respect for cultural and biological diversity as a whole, that the future can be built. This is especially important for the integration of both tangible and intangible aspects of heritage in the lives of the local communities in spirit of sustainable development. A multidisciplinary and participatory approach to heritage conservation is therefore encouraged and would take into account social, economic, and environmental dimensions. The Kyoto Vision further highlights that the people-centered conservation of the world's cultural and natural world heritage is an opportunity to provide critical learning models for the pursuit of sustainable development and for ensuring a harmonious relationship between communities and their environment, which is essential to achieve a sustainable development. This is precisely in line with the policy document. For the integration of a sustainable development perspective into the processes of the World Heritage Convention, which was adopted in 2015 by the 20th General Assembly of World Heritage Convention, the overall goal of the policy is to assist the state parties, practitioners and institutions, local communities, to harness the potential of World Heritage properties and heritage in general to contribute to sustainable development and therefore increase the effectiveness and relevance of the conventions. To this end, the fundamental considerations such as the respect of human rights, gender equality, poverty alleviation, the rights of local community will now be integrated in conservation and management approaches and also in the monitoring mechanism of the World Heritage Convention through the revision of the operational guidelines of the World Heritage Convention. In spirit of this, the UNESCO, within the framework of the UNESCO Republic of Korea Funding Trust, launched an overarching pilot project to showcase the involvement of various communities in the efforts of conservation of cultural heritage sites, including some of the World Heritage sites such as Makli and Parpur, Viara, with an emphasis on sustainable development and interaction between communities and their shared heritage. This project aims to help local communities to develop traditional crafts related to conservation works of their cultural heritage, thereby creating a strong bond between them. This workshop is part of the wrap-up activities of the project and targets the relationship between heritage sites and the local communities. The workshop, on the one hand, aims to showcase the role of heritage as a vector for sustainable development, placing people in its center, but also to advocate the importance of the role that can be played by the local communities in conservation and management heritage sites, notably in World Heritage properties. To this end, colleagues from various parts of the region, in particular Bangladesh, Jordan, Iran, Nepal, Oman, and Pakistan, came to share valuable experience in the engagement of local communities and the sustainable development. Numerous national stakeholders from all different corners of Pakistan are also taking part in this workshop to promote and advocate the engagement of local communities in the conservation of management of cultural heritage. This workshop is composed of 3 sessions. Yes. So first session is more related to sustainable development and local communities, while the second one is to the engagement of local communities in the management of World Heritage Site. And finally, the session 3, which is divided in 2 group discussion, we wanted to promote maximum the free discussion of course, the international participants, they will share the experiences, and of course, and from national stakeholders, we would like to really discuss with UNESCO and you how we can further advocate this approach, this sensible approach in Pakistan, not only World Heritage Site, but in heritage in general. So we would like to wish you all the fruitful discussion, and thank you very much for coming. And of course, last, I'd like to thank the TGSIB and Department of Archaeology for this wonderful organization of the workshop. Thank you very much.
Just a little bit about Heritage Foundation. Next slide. As you can see, it's a not-for-profit social and cultural entrepreneur organization established in 1980 for safeguarding Pakistan's cultural heritage. Since 2005, it provides humanitarian assistance by linking heritage and post-disaster development. So we work very closely with communities because of our humanitarian work. So there's heritage management, and of course there's the humanitarian assistance where we use a zero carbon footprint kind of methodologies using only mud, lime, and bamboo that we are trying to also popularize in the work in heritage as well. It's due to our humanitarian work in disaster areas. We are very conscious of climate change impact as well, which is impacting our heritage also very much. And the zero carbon construction and net zero energy structures, which because they are low cost, help people to build, to become self-reliant. In most of our work, marginalized communities and particularly women are the focus of our attention. And this I would like to propose should be taken up seriously when we work in heritage also, where women should really be given central roles in many ways. Not because I'm a woman, because I think that can take the whole thing much further. So my presentation today will be in 5 parts. First, introduction to Makli World Heritage. I'm not sure how many of the August members here have been there, but I thought a little introduction would be useful. Secondly, the engagement of Heritage Foundation in Makli village communities in the last 5 years. Thirdly, and most importantly, the impact of UNESCO, Republic of Korea, a funds and trust project for revitalization of ancient clay styles in Sindh. And fourthly, presentation of a case study based on calligraphy panels in 16th century tomb of Sultan Ibrahim. And fifthly, Heritage Foundation strategy for sustainability, awareness, propagation of glazed ceramics. So the first part, where we're talking about Makli itself. Next. I'm sure that you're aware that Makli necropolis is a unique site, which has a collection of not only tangible heritage spanning over 400 years, but it is also endowed with intangible attributes. Its very air being pervaded with spiritual connotations. The shrines attract a large number of visitors who come in droves, especially to participate in special religious celebrations. So the Kyoto document that talks about the mixing of or linking together tangible and intangible heritage very much exists at Makli, and I'm hoping that when you go tomorrow, you'll be able to have a look at it. So I'm reminded of this quote by Lockwood Kipling, the father of Rudyard, and himself renowned for having set up the National College of Arts in Lahore, as you know, and also which was known as the Mayor School of Art, once called the Wazir Khan Mosque that I just see has been restored through the good offices of the Aga Khan cultural program. He called it called the Wazir Khan Mosque with its proliferation of patterns a school of design. Well, I think if he had visited Makli at that time, he might have thought the description more apt for infinite reservoir of design existing at the Makli necropolis, consisting of not only exuberant kashi, but also stone carvings of infinite variation, and also the limitless rendering of Quranic verses, both in glazed ceramic and stone. It is a virtual reservoir which doesn't exist, I don't think, anywhere else. So I'm probably Not okay, all right. Yes. I'm just afraid that, I might... No, it's okay. It's okay, all right, okay. So I'm probably biased, I have to say. Since my husband, historian Sohail Zahir Lari, and I have been working on various aspects of the site since the late 1980s, from 1988 actually. But our foreign visitors can judge for themselves when you visit the site tomorrow, and maybe some of the Pakistanis as well who have not been there before. So as you can see, back. You can see the map of Makli that was prepared by us, which shows the core zone and the buffer zone. And you can see on the right is the ridge, which is the east. And that is where really the old riverbed is. That's where the communities are. And as you can see, it's the largest Muslim necropolis in the world, which is spread over 12 square kilometers. It represents 400 years of different ruling dynasties in Sindh. And you can see so many of these wonderful examples of different periods in history. It incorporates lofty tombs and ornate grave cenotaphs. It has shrines and spiritual rituals, and it provides sustenance of the soul. And in 1981, it was inscribed on the World Heritage List. And 2010 or 11, I think the transfer took place to 2011, transfer took place to heritage sites in Sindh. So this is generally what you will see. The site is quite big. Next. On the left, this is the map that we have prepared, where we've done a whole inventory of all the heritage assets that we found. This was done in 2012 or 13. And you can see with the arrows, you can see more or less the clusters of different dynasties. So there's the Samma period, which is the original rulers of Sindh at that time in the 14th century. And then there's the Arghun rule from Central Asia, the Tarkhan rule, and then the Mughal rule. So you can see that there were about 19 of the original Samma period, which is the most spectacular work that you can find. And then there's, of course, the Arghun and Tarkhan rules, in which you start having Timurid structures and you start having Kashi and everything. And then, of course, the Mughal rule, which is a little bit more ornate. And a total of 75 have been actually identified by us and listed. And so if you can see the number of heritage assets, there's 75 monuments, 402 platforms, 454 stone graves. There's 100, something like 17 or whatever, plastered graves, and there are lots of rubble graves. These are approximate because it may be that there are some more, or you may have missed out some. But by and large, this is what you can see when you go there. Next. This is a map that's been prepared by us to identify and to make an inventory of the shrines that exist in the area. And now you will see that there's something like 20 shrines that also exist and live, and basically they are very much part of the Makli heritage site. There are some that are within the notified area of Makli, while there are many that are beyond that and around. But the fact is that for everybody who goes there, the whole is Makli, whether it's part of the World Heritage limitation or not, and the shrines play a very important role in the whole thing. So this is what we see at Makli when you will go and have a look at it. Next. So I come to the second part now, which is the Heritage Foundation projects and work that has been carried out in the last years in the Makli goat community. I'll focus on that first, and we can see how we've been interacting with the community itself. Next. I just wanted to share with you that the foundation has been privileged to have been engaged in work on several monuments, which has enabled us to employ and train several non-skilled and semi-skilled members of surrounding marginalized communities. So there's one of the 15th century on the top, which is supported by the Prince Claus Fund, the ruin of the tomb of Samma Noble I. The second is a mosque called the Ashabi or Aulia Pir Mosque of 15th century that was supported by a friend in South Africa, by a Muslim community there. There's a tomb of Jam Nizamuddin, on which we were again privileged to have been able to do a whole documentation of it, which was supported by UNESCO. Then, of course, the One, the tomb of Mirza Jan Baba, supported by German government itself, and we carried out the conservation. And then, of course, the fifth one is the tomb of Amir Sultan and Sultan Ibrahim. And Sultan Ibrahim is the one that will be the focus, I hope, tomorrow, because that's where the work that we've been able to carry out through the support of UNESCO and the tiles, the glazed tile work that has been carried out. So then this has been an amazing opportunity for us to be able to not only try to find new ways of doing it, find more economical ways of doing it, but also to involve local communities. If we can work out strategies for conservation, and there, as you all know, there are many different steps and there are many different stages. There are many in which communities can be involved. There are some in which you'll need master artisans, but there are many other possibilities where, as helpers, as semi-skilled and so on, you can actually use the community members. And this is what I presume is the intention of today's gathering, that we should try and find ways, how do we get them together? How do we create livelihoods for them? Next. So this is again a map which shows the communities. You can see the site itself, and then on the right you can see a few circles in red which show where the clusters, where the village clusters are. And just to give you a little bit of background of this, totally marginalized community which is engaged in seeking alms, because that's what they do. They go and get alms from the devotees who come to these shrines. And there are very limited livelihood opportunities for them around that area. They are always affected by any kind of flooding. Even a little bit of water that comes in destroys the whole community. And this is right in the shadow of Makli. The Makli ridge is on the right, and then they're all there. And then youth and women are particularly vulnerable, as always, as everywhere else. And then our resolve has been to provide livelihood and dignity to women. This has been our focus, and we've actually been able to make our entree into the communities because of our emphasis on trying to do something for women. And so there are only a couple of them that we have been able to actually be involved in, which are closest to the site. There are many others that still lie where we have not been able to reach out. Now, as there is no livelihood opportunity in the area, many settlements have sprouted where the residents are forced to eke out their living through begging at the shrines. For several decades, they have survived due to the alms received from devotees and the food distributed by the generous soup kitchens attached to the shrines. As we know, this is the custom everywhere along the shrines. So that's why for us it became important to start with our humanitarian work. Next. This is like how they lived. Many of them still continue to live like that, of course. And this is, the second slide shows you how they've improved. And because of our work with green techniques of bamboo and everything else, we've been able to teach, and they've been able to do better things. And then on the left, you see the toilet cubicles that really allowed us to enter or gain an entree into the community, because we started to tell them to start using them. And because it's important for dignity of women that they should have enclosures, so this is how we actually managed to get there. Otherwise, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to see that people start trusting you. So, and you can see the improved environment. It's happening. It's very slow, but it's happening. And women are being encouraged to learn skills, and men have been trained in green skills before we started to involve them into conservation work or in helping in conservation. So the challenge in working with mendicant communities is great, as you can imagine, as competing with the income from alms is not easy. They get a lot of money by seeking alms. So how do you see that they earn more than what they've been able to get by just extending their hand? So it has taken a great deal of time and effort to gain their confidence. That's another important factor, as all of you must know who work in communities. They don't trust you. Who are you to come in and tell them what to do? And to persuade them to become productive members of society. Why should they? They already have it's going, and they don't care where they live, how they live. They don't know any better, and so they don't see why they should change. I believe that it was our humanitarian work due to which we were able to gain credibility among the local populace. If we hadn't done that, if we had told them, come and do some work and we'll give you, wages, I don't think that could have got them there. So just the fact that we were serious, we wanted to do something for them, I think that's how we managed to get them involved. So the work on several the work on several historic monuments enabled us to provide training to the unskilled and semi-skilled in several tasks, which allowed them to begin earning from work at the World Heritage site probably for the first time. Somehow it had not happened before. Communities had not been given much attention. First of all, they are a little bit remote. Everybody's scared of poor people, huh? That's another thing. So you don't know how to get them into it. And so people didn't really want to, make the extra effort because it does require extra effort. So we've been training them into on the monuments, all the sturdy and robust areas, how to clean them. And we've trained young people exactly how to do it and so on. So you can see different aspects, preparation by semi-skilled people and even bamboo construction, because we finally made a bamboo dome on one of the monuments, which is the tomb of Jan Baba. And there we were able to, again, the ones we had trained were able to get involved in that. But the most important factor or the personality was Karima, the beggar woman who became the role model. And she was trained how to make miniature Kashi tiles. That's how she managed to do this. So I think the issue here, and if I may dilate a little bit, is that most of the conservation work in this country is carried out by contractors. And they are all government officials who are here. They know what has been going on. And since I've again been fortunate to have been part of the team of UNESCO as national advisor at the Lahore Fort, I know quite well exactly what the issues are. The contractors' work is actually destroying our heritage, I might just say. And we have to, I think the system that was there before, where you trained the artisans who stayed on with the department, who knew what to do, knew how to touch the monument, those were the ones that we need again today. What is happening today, where a contractor comes in, he's given the task, he brings in people from outside, he's got nothing to do with the communities, he's not bothered. And more than that, he will do whatever he wants to do, because how much can it be supervised? How can they give him artisans who are not trained in the work? So I think this is something that I would very much like, if it can be discussed, if it's something that you would like, Zafina, because agar aapke problems hain, then let's discuss them, because I think it's very important for us sites as to how do we deal with them. If you want to involve communities, we have to change the way that that the government departments are required to conserve the sites. It is clear to us that local community is willing if they are provided an opportunity for training and developing their expertise in various aspects of conservation. In view of its vastness, we believe that Makli provides an ideal opportunity to train and to continuously engage local artisans who would develop a stake in the well-being of the World Heritage Site. I mean, this is another important thing. Why should anybody bother who's living around about this heritage site which does nothing for them? So as is very clear from Juni's presentation, this is something that concerns everybody who's involved in conservation. So we need to really focus on this. So for us, the most important was the agreement by Karima, who became the first woman to stop seeking arms. She does not seek arms anymore. And she's actually got another 5 families who do not seek arms. Once she began to earn by fabricating miniature glazed tiles. So this is where we come in with the project, with Juni's project, part 3. This is the revitalization of ancient glazed tiles in Sindh, which is UNESCO Republic of Korea Fund and Trust project that we were again privileged to be a partner with, and it has given us just so much expertise that it's been quite amazing for us. This is the most significant activity in the last years, I believe, spearheaded by Juni Han, as we know, which promises to engage the local communities on a long-term basis. So it's not only that they will come in and do it and then it's finished. I think it can be taken forward much more. So, next. So the project provided the opportunity for a great deal of research from historical sources, particularly 19th century British accounts of visitors and scholars such as Birdwood and Cousins, Purdon Clark, Furnival and Kipling, to name a few. And that whole research was then compiled in a document that was required by UNESCO, in addition to also mapping of the Kashi centers that were there, and then also the whole production, the traditional way of producing these tiles. This was all studied, and we also were able to prepare an artisans database to see what was happening in Sindh as far as this particular very valuable craft was concerned. Next. This is all compiled from different buildings as to what kind of kashi was available. There are some illustrations from Cousin's amazing compendium of all the patterns that existed. Next. So this is a map of Sindh, as you know, and you can see the main centers on this: Sehwan, Hala, Nasarpur, Hyderabad, and in the south you see Makli and Thatta. Makli and Thatta, I think, are synonymous because they're very close together, and we can actually put them together in terms of what is going on there. So when we did our study, and we were able to actually do this work because we have developed an electronic data bank of Sindh heritage in collaboration with University of Aachen and a grant from Germany. We were able to locate information on monuments with Kashi decoration in Sindh. So we found that in Hala there were only 4 that were now surviving. Hyderabad had only 11, Nasarpur only 2, Makli and Thatta together had 23, and Sehwan only 2. So this led us to believe, and we'll go a little bit further on this. Next slides, you can see how we actually carried out the whole detailing documentation. We listed all the monuments that had Kashi in them for each of those particular cities. Next. So there's Hala, and then there's Makli. Hala was shown as an example, and Makli, you can see there are 20 in Makli alone, and there are 3 in Thatta, including the Shahjahan Mosque. So that meant that Thatta at any time, or Makli, was an amazing center for Kashi production. And somehow nobody ever really had put that emphasis on Makli or on Thatta. It was thought that Hala and Nasarpur were the best ones because that's where it's surviving actually. In Thatta it's almost died, although there's a Kumbharwara there, there's a Kashiwara there in Thatta itself, but nobody is there who does this work, because they've all finished off. So you can see this work was done to see where was the best place to actually start the revitalization process. Next. And this is, of course, the tomb of Sultan Ibrahim, and you can see the examples of Kashi, of fantastic calligraphy that is there. Next. Now, this is a Hala Kashi centers. We actually studied what kind of ceramics was it being produced in each of these centers. Next. So Hala was big, and so was Nasarpur, where still these people continue. But you can see there are only 5. When we did, there are only 5 workshops left, but there would have been at least a couple of dozen workshops at one time. And I think even at that time, this was done about maybe 2 years ago, I think in that time also some of them had also died, because there's just not enough work for them, mainly because of not having the right quality also, that has to be said. So this was all done. I just wanted to show you what we've done and studied. And then you can see this, that out with the project, what was very important, actually, an important component that had been put in was to gather the Kashigars, the artisans, master artisans that were still practicing. So we were able to bring them together and to discuss as to what their problems were and how were they actually implementing the whole process. And one of a major component was where Juni brought in these very fine experts from Italy. I think they're Italian and German. They came and they, right. So they were here and they interacted with the various people, and I think Ayaz also visited, and in one of those discussions. And so that was very good because they were able to see what was going on, how are they doing it, and also what was seen as the lacunae or the drawbacks that had to be studied. So the main recommendations were that advanced processes and techniques need to be adopted in harmony with the traditional practices, and that Kashi artisan needs to be trained for developing scientific methods to improve, explore, and record their traditional expertise in order to evolve the practice and processes. This is something that needs to be done. I think it can be done by government. We were not able to actually convince the artisans that they have to change. They felt whatever they were doing is fine. And why should they? Because it means more effort, it means more money, and why should they do it? So I think a big push from government will be a great help in this, in taking it forward with them. So, then with the experts, they not only interacted with the Kashigars, but as you can see in one of the two of the slides, with the community also. because the community had already been motivated by us, and so there were kids, there were women who wanted to be them, and just by their presence makes such a big impetus, because suddenly everybody felt this is something important. You know, Kashi was something important that Goras have come in, Ferengis have come in to tell them what to do. So I think these are all little steps, but I think they do make a difference. All right, next. I think we can see the experts somewhere there also, Elena and Marco, who were very, very good. Right, so then this part 4 of my presentation, the calligraphy glazed tiles. And this is something, again, that we are beholden to UNESCO for this, to Juni and to UNESCO Islamabad for allowing this to happen. Because without it, I don't think we should have been able to do those amazing calligraphy glazed textile panels. Next. This is the tomb of Sultan Ibrahim, and we just, if I may just say, yeah, this is an animated version. It's now completed. It's got the Kashi panels on all sides. Although if you see from the pictures below, only the left, which is the north side, had a complete Kashi calligraphy written. And that became the basis on which we could then actually develop it and take it forward. Because it was very important for us not to do something that would not be based on any evidence. So it was fortuitous that the foundation was engaged in conservation of one of the most important 16th century Timurid monuments, supported by the US Ambassador's Fund, which not only has the first double dome in the subcontinent, as you can see, but also incorporates probably the first glazed ceramic examples, and really a very, very fine ceramic that was done there. So I'm only showing you the calligraphy panel that was actually supported by UNESCO, and I can't tell you the amazing support that we received, and I don't want to embarrass Juni, but you know, the thing is that it was really spectacular. Without it, we would not have been able to do the glazed tile work that now we've been able to execute. So next. So this is the North Facade. We did a huge amount of documentation, huge amount of recording of every little bit that was there. And I'm very pleased to say that we've been told by our sponsors of this, especially by the State Department conservation experts, that it's probably the best kind of documentation they've ever seen. So I'm very pleased about this, that we have gone on everything that existed, we've recorded it, nothing is done on which we did not know that it had been there before. So you can see this is the North Facade where the evidence was there, although it is in a highly dilapidated condition, but this has not been touched, you can see as it is. And then, of course, the drawings were made, and then with the Photoshop and so on, our architects, and they are here, 2 of them, who did the work, and especially I want to acknowledge Ashfaq, who's done an enormous amount of work on in this whole thing. So, so the stitching was done and everything, so we knew exactly how these panels are. And you can see how the whole, you can't see the middle part, but that's all AutoCAD drawing. I'm sorry, this is not very good. Next. So this is, again, how we developed everything, and then each tile was numbered, each tile had what it is. And you see everywhere else you have glazed tiles which repeat. So the repetitive pattern is there, and you do one and you just repeat it. Here, each one is different, each one is unique. So each one had to actually merge in. And where it was easy, where there was like the south facade had nothing left except maybe 2 or 3 border tiles. The others, the west and east had some fragments left. To match with those fragments was really something that required a lot of effort. But I'm very happy that for us, it was a great deal of learning experience. And not only we learned, but I think we really enjoyed and saw how the whole process could take place. So, next. So lacunae have been being filled. Okay, we have not done anything or removed any part of the existing whatever we could find in terms of evidence, only where we had the evidence, and there are only 3 parts in this. One is the calligraphy, which we had the evidence and we were able to complete it, and we've defined it completely. And the second was you'll see it tomorrow, the hexagonal tiles in the interior. And the third is spandrels, where we could find the pattern and so on. So how did we did the replica? How did we do the fabrication? So you can see first the making of the tiles, then transferring the pattern, the design onto tracing paper, transferring through charcoal onto the tile, then drawing outline of each one of them, color filling and all the rest of it, and then checking continuity or words after firing, and then checking alignment. So there's a whole process that was followed for each one of them, and then it was placed in position. And because the space was obviously limited and defined, we had to make sure that everything was done right. Next. So again, this is the conservation procedure that we followed. All evidence of original tiles, even bisque, to be maintained. Wherever we found bisque, we did not touch it, we left it as it is. Lacunae to be filled by tiles only where evidence of the size and pattern was available. All interventions were distinguishable from the original. All interventions are reversible. And this you can see, they're all marked and the dates are there and everything. So we've tried to follow the best practice procedures so that everything is done in the right manner. Next. This is the last part of my presentation now, strategy for